So preparing for the JMSS entrance exam can feel very overwhelming for a lot of people with all the math and science knowledge you need to build. With so many topics to cover in math and science, it might feel really overwhelming. You won't have any idea where to start. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be going over some of the most influential books that I've read when I'm preparing for John Monash, as well as the books that I use to build resources that help all my students get into John Monash. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Before jumping right into textbooks and math questions and things like that, I want to go right into some more mindset focused books in order to build a good foundation so that you don't just become another student that wants to get into JMSS, but become a student that actually deserves to be in JMSS. So the first book I recommend you read is called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It's one of the first books I've ever read, and I gift this the most to most of my friends. This is the book that I give to anyone who's starting a business, anyone who wants to make a change in their life, or anyone who's really trying to get into John Monash. And this is kind of how I started laying out my foundations when I teach students how to get into John Monash, because that book has been so influential in my life for most of the things I do. So this is a very strange book to have on a list where you want to get into John Monash, and you might be very confused. You might think, what does this have to do with math and science? Fair enough question. The answer is everything. Preparing for John Monash is more than just about studying for math and science. It's about understanding why you want to go into the school in the first place. Are you passionate about STEM? Do you love working in teams? Do you love doing real-world problem solving? Understanding your motivation as to why you want to get into the school will help you maintain your preparation, your practice, and your consistency, especially when your preparation gets tough, especially when you're banging your head against the wall about a specific topic that you just can't understand. So read Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It's a fantastic book, really lays a good foundation, and it helps you understand why you want to get into school, helps with the preparation process in terms of doing the stuff and also the interview as well. So a fantastic book. Read it if you can. If you can't, get a summary of it. It's a brilliant book to read. The next book is called Ultralearning by Scott Young. I'm going to have to pull it up on my Kindle. This book is exactly what it sounds like. It's about learning things and learning things quickly and effectively. Ultralearning, Scott Young. Basically, Scott Young was someone who decided to do an entire degree at MIT or learn physics knowledge at MIT over the course of a year, and he dedicated a year to complete like a 4 or 5 year degree, which is insane, by the way, especially for a hard topic. It's really, really difficult to do that. So he's pretty knowledgeable in how to learn things effectively and quickly. So the reason I recommend this book is so that you can actually learn how to learn quickly and effectively. The hard part in John Monash is not just knowing the math, not just knowing the science, not just knowing the writing and stuff like that. It's not knowing the content. It's applying it effectively and quickly and learning it quickly, because you only have 4 or 5 months to prepare. It's not a lot of time. Anyone can prepare for the exam if they have 1 or 2 years. And I'm convinced if you start like 2 years in advance, you can get into the school relatively easily. Convinced. You can't say otherwise. But learning it in 4 or 5 months, that's where the separation is. Okay, that's where the separation is. Knowing how to apply the knowledge effectively, learn things quickly, and pass the exam is the hurdle. That is the hard thing. So read Ultralearning. It gives you a lot of strategies, a lot of advice, and it kind of changes the approach that you should take when you're preparing for this, because preparing for this exam is much different to preparing for a school test. It's very different. The third book is Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't heard this book before, you've been living under a rock. It's a very popular book in the self-help, motivation, habit building, entrepreneurship space. Do yourself a favor, read it. It gives you a lot of really helpful advice. Honestly, it's the book that I share the most, which is why I don't have a copy of it today, because I've given it to a friend to read. It's a really helpful book, and it gives you a good foundation on how to make habits stick, because if you're preparing for John Monash, you need to really stick with it. And it's hard to pick up something that you aren't familiar with. Like, studying is a hard thing to pick up. So this might mean you need to change the way you go about things. So I always recommend Atomic Habits for just building that routine of preparing, because consistency is the thing that really pays off in the end. Now, for the science reasoning aspect of the exam, I'm going to recommend one general book and then also a textbook for you to learn with. The general book is called How to Think Like a Scientist by Stephen Kramer. I don't know if I've said that right, but Stephen Kramer, How to Think Like a Scientist. I'll put a picture up. I don't have a copy of it, but I think it's a must read for JMSS because it's the book that teaches you to observe, hypothesize, and draw conclusions like an actual scientist would. JMSS isn't just looking for people who memorize facts, figures, and stats. They want people who think critically, and the interview process tests this as well. So if you can practice applying the mindset that scientists use in everyday life, for example, if you notice that like a plant's growing differently in sunlight versus shade, trying to hypothesize why that's the case, basically think like a scientist, right? And I can go off on a whole tangent about asking questions and how that really builds a great foundation, but I might leave that for another video because I think there's a lot to talk about in that one as well. The small exercises that are in the book and actually like changing your mindset on how you apply and learn science really shapes your science knowledge and preparation period. So read How to Think Like a Scientist by Stephen Kramer, brilliant book, would recommend it to anyone. It's the book that I use to kind of create problems in practice and questions and things like that. It's also the book I use to create mock interview questions and things as well. The science textbook I would recommend, honestly, just whatever school uses is great. If your school has a dedicated science textbook, would strongly recommend it. Personally, what I use to base my notes and my templates and things like that I use for my students that come to me for preparation is the Jacaranda textbook. I think the Jacaranda textbook for science is honestly just the best in Victoria. Like Cambridge, Heinemann are good, they're great, but there's just something about the Jacaranda textbook that's just different, because I found that if there is like a specific topic that I'm not aware of, especially when I was preparing as well, if there's a specific topic that I didn't know much about, I could look at that book and then kind of become an expert for my year, like knowing that knowledge. And I would just read the chapter like cover to cover, right? And the problems in there are brilliant as well. The problems in the Jacaranda textbook are very good. It tests understanding. It also tests critical thinking. And the additional information they have, you know, some textbooks, they give you like some random bits of information that are like additional. I think they're really good as well because you can use that as evidence pieces in your science communication essay. So I just think the Jacaranda book's really good. It's a mix of like not too obscenely technical and difficult to understand, and also not like too easy, which is a really fine line to draw. And I can't praise Jacaranda enough. Whoever wrote that book at Jacaranda, very, very good. You know, all the authors that worked at that, very, very good. Keep it up if you're watching this video. Can't recommend that book enough. It's really, really helpful. And I think that if you're someone who is like forcing yourself to study for a specific topic, like let's say you're not the biggest fan of like geology, like you just don't really like geology, reading the Jacaranda book is going to be great for you because it gives you the knowledge in an interesting way, and it also doesn't go obscenely technical and like way far out of what you should know. It's very easy to pick up and read, and even if there's a topic that you're not interested in, it makes it interesting and it doesn't go too far beyond the syllabus. But on the other hand, if you are interested in a topic, it gives you a whole lot of places to branch out, like all the extra questions and things that they have allows you to branch out and research on your own things that you find interesting. And that's why I recommend the Jacaranda textbook for anyone who's preparing for John Monash. Pick that book up. Very, very good. Can't rate it enough. But if you can't get it for whatever reason, just whatever school uses is fine as well. But the Jacaranda book, 10 out of 10. Can't recommend it enough. Math. Math is a weird one. Math is just one of those things, or maths, I should say. Sorry, I've done work with American students, so we say math there, or they say math there, and so I've translated that here. But maths, right? Maths. Maths is a weird one. I think the best book that I recommend as a foundation, if you're really struggling understanding things, is going to be a book called The Art of Problem Solving. And it's kind of a series. And the one I would specifically recommend is their pre-algebra and algebra ones. The Art of Problem Solving. Very, very good. It's perfect for like mastering your numerical and logical reasoning. And unlike traditional textbooks, the art of problem solving really teaches you to think creatively about maths. It really emphasizes solving problems in multiple ways and understanding why behind each solution and why each solution works the way it does, which I really like. I think it's the cornerstone of math. If you want to do anything in mathematics that is important or like valuable, or you want to have a high level of mathematics for engineering, science, technology, engineering, math, whatever it is, STEM, it's the book you have to read. Like, you just have to read that book. It's phenomenal if you want to be a teacher, if you want to learn effectively. Just a fantastic book. It's what I use to create problems with meaning. It's what I use to kind of teach my students that are really struggling. Just fantastic book series. So read The Art of Problem Solving if you have time. It's a bit of a textbook style book, but it's very good still. So super, super helpful. Math books I recommend, honestly, any of them, because the math segment in John Monash is very difficult in terms of timing. You won't find the concepts hard because the concepts are like, at most, they might test quadratics and logarithms, right? They might have like 4 questions in the entire exam based off quadratics, logarithms, and any other like high level mathematics. The rest of it is all really just doing questions quickly. It's just solving problems quickly and doing calculations quickly. So any textbook is going to be good. If I had to recommend one, like Cambridge is the king of math. Don't care what anyone says. They're just the best. Cambridge has really good questions. It's a mix of like easy foundation, medium testing, and then hard application. It's just a great like era of book to study in if you just want like an overall foundation. Cambridge is just the best overall. If you wanted to really push yourself, the Jacaranda, I think it's called the Math Quest series, has insanely hard questions. Like, the reason I say insanely hard is not because they're like actually difficult, but because they really test your knowledge in the topic. They really test your unconventional problem solving aspect of things. And I don't recommend that book for a lot of people because that's more like the books you use to prepare for school rather than like the books that you should use to prepare for an entrance exam. Because the entrance exam isn't just testing math knowledge, it's really testing how quickly you can solve questions. So math, if you're really struggling to get a foundation on a specific topic like algebra, geometry, quadratics, whatever it is, polynomials, whatever, then the Cambridge textbook series, brilliant, 10 out of 10. If you want extra additional like problem solving style questions, go to the Jacaranda book and then get those ones. I don't know if Ed Rollo has their own textbooks. I've heard people using the Ed Rollo textbook for like physics and biology and things like that. I don't know if they have one for math, but honestly, just whatever school uses for math is fine. Like, you don't have to need anything crazy. The best thing you can do for math though is just do practice exams. So if you can get a hold of some mock exams, preparing for those and training yourself to do those questions quickly is the best way you can prepare. But if you're struggling on a specific topic, pick up a Cambridge textbook and you should be fine once you go through it back to front. Anyway, there you have it. The 7 books, I think. Start with why. I don't remember. Start with why. Atomic Habits, Ultralearning, Art of Problem Solving, Cambridge textbook, Science textbook, and then How to Think Like a Scientist. So those are 7 books. So there you have it. The 7 books that I think are the most helpful, the most powerful books to really transform your John Monash preparation. Start with the foundation, please, because the foundation is kind of where you need to build from. So start with why, Ultralearning, Atomic Habits, just the best books to start off with. And then once you want to really dive into the science and math concepts, pick up How to Think Like a Scientist, and then pick up your science textbook, and then the Art of Problem Solving and your math textbook. And then that gives you a really good foundation on what to read and do. So those books won't just help you with the exam, it'll also just help you in general success in your future learning. So yeah, these books will really help you with more of the learning, not just acing the exam, but just in your future, what you want to learn and things like that. So let me know if those books helped you and if you want any other information on things. If you found this helpful, that's great. Anyway, like I always say, don't like, don't comment, don't sub, log off and do something else now. See ya.